You know, I give RWBY a lot of crap, but it certainly has its moments, and Volume 6 in particular is rife with interesting lore bits, action, and generally good filmmaking. So as we get closer to Volume 8, I thought it was a good time to look at the last two volumes and pick out the best and worst moments. In this video, if you didn't bother reading the title, I'll be talking about 10 great scenes in RWBY Volume 6. If you'll recall my prior lists of this nature, the same rules apply. If you don't recall, basically I'm only picking one scene per episode and listing them off in chronological order. The first scene I want to highlight is, well, the first scene. The entire first episode is just a microcosm of what I think RWBY should have always been. You have the characters, you see the relationship, there's danger, the characters need to defend people, action ensues, and it's pretty good. I do have some issues with the second part of the fight, so I do prefer the cold open that kicks off the volume. It's the first big grim fight since the start of Volume 5, and the first time we've seen Team RWBY fight together since the very start of Volume 3. The novelty alone shouldn't earn it a place on this list, but it's RWBY, so the novelty does earn it a place on this list. But even aside from the novelty of this being the first time in a long time the show has lived up to its premise, it's just a solid action sequence. The second scene is one I've already talked about at length. The scene where Oscar finally fights back control over Ozpin is a masterpiece and possibly the best scene of the volume. By God, I actually cared for Oscar for a hot minute there. The lighting and use of color help elevate the scene, but special mention needs to be given to Aaron Dismuke for just knocking it out of the park. He really knows what he's doing and how to convey the struggle of losing your mind on a mission you never really volunteered for. It also sets the stage for the general sense of mistrust that defines both this volume and the next. Can they trust Ozpin? Can they trust Oscar? Can Oscar even trust himself? All interesting philosophical quandaries that the show botches sometimes, but other times does a pretty good job addressing. The third scene I want to talk about is this bit in episode 3 when we see Salem trying to kill herself. Not much to say. I like that we see RWBY's reaction more than the attempt itself. Music is good, it's a relatively well made scene, but holy shit, I was not expecting it to go this far with it. I was taken by surprise that we actually saw it. It's just a few seconds, but man has it stuck with me. It really highlights how much it actually sucks to be immortal. The fourth scene is the one where Ozpin gets punched. This builds on all the tension that was built up in episode 2 and brings it to a boil. Ozpin gets punched, we get more insight on what Crow thinks about all this, Yang lashes out, RWBY tries being the peacekeeper and tries comforting Oscar after Ozpin hides away, and then the cherry on top. As we get into Volume 7, we see some of the merits of secrecy and trusting people with those secrets. And we also see how fragile that trust can be. The next two scenes involve the Apathy. There's a lot of buildup in episode 5. Once again, this is what RWBY should have always been. There's no actual civilians to protect this time, but we do have Maria to do some exposition, and since she's not a combatant, there was the possibility of needing to protect her. That's not the direction they end up going, and it's for the better, I think. This is the emotional low point of the volume. The characters are drained, tired, they're losing hope in victory now that they know Salem is immortal. Yang herself later brings up the fact that, hypothetically, all they have to do is hide the lamp somewhere where Salem won't find it for a long time. Pawn saving the world off on the next generation. But it's the slow creeping dread as the night falls and everyone just starts feeling really tired of everything that earns this scene from episode 5 a spot on this list. And everything about these scenes in episode 6 is unsettling. The actual reveal of the Apathy is alright, but even better are the blank, drained stares of everyone under their influence. Even RWBY starts succumbing to their influence and nearly throws everything away. The Apathy move with this creeping dread that's completely antithetical to how the Grimm usually operate. It creates a buildup that isn't present in any other Grimm encounter, and the payoff with the Silver Eyes is just as satisfying as the buildup. We gotta skip ahead quite a bit to find the 7th great scene. The scene with Jean going off on Oscar hits all the same beats as the prior scene with Crow punching him. But unlike that scene, Jean actually brings up some valid points. Crow's scathing remarks feel more petty, like woe is me. Jean's grievances are a lot more universal. If Ozpin was hiding this much, how much else could he be hiding? Was he acting for the world's well-being, or was it all self-interest? And how much can you trust someone who doesn't even have full control of his mind? And how much can you trust someone with the safety of civilization when they themselves wouldn't suffer any consequences from dying? And then you have shots like this that visibly convey how separated everyone is even after being reunited. Episodes 10, 11, and 12 bounce back and forth between two things, Adam and Cordovan. The Cordovan stuff kinda sucks, but I actually really like the Adam stuff. So the 8th and 9th scenes I want to talk about both involve him. There's some hard pills to swallow and some slappy cinematography, but overall, this is a satisfying climax to two of the main characters' arcs and how they finally, officially, set aside the grievances that kept them physically separated in volumes 4 and 5 and emotionally separated in volume 6. In a volume characterized by apathy and mistrust, seeing two main characters join hands to take on a villain who caused them both so much pain is awfully poignant. It also helps that the stuff involving Yang fighting Adam is filled to the brim with several great beats that stick in your head. And for the 9th scene, finally watching Adam die is about the best that could have happened to his character after this. I've defended this entire sequence ad nauseum in the past. Adam was more threatening here than he ever had been. Even with all the training we're supposed to believe Yang did, Adam is still strong enough to overwhelm her aura and put a gash in her arm with a single blade beam. And the two girls killing him together closes out their character arcs so that they can hopefully stop hogging all the screen time going forward. And for the 10th and final scene I want to highlight, it's the one from the finale when RWBY first consciously uses her silver eyes. There's a lot of build up here as well, going back to the apathy encounter, and while the whole thing is on the nose, it doesn't make it any less poignant that dwelling on the death of Pyrrha and Penny keeps her powers from working, but wanting to protect her memory of them when they were alive, all her fondest memories of her friends, and even the living memory of Summer Rose, it's what finally gives her the strength to save a city, an entire city, for the first time. This is the turning point in the personal experience RWBY so desperately needed. So that was 10-ish scenes that I really liked in RWBY Volume 6. Overall, I still think it's the best volume, but it's not all great. I'm Mediocrity4, next time I'll be tackling the 10 worst scenes in RWBY Volume 6.